Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gerard Dawson, and thank you for listening to the EdTech Startup Show. This is a quick preview from an upcoming episode with Dr. Brock Eide, who is the founder of Neurolearning SPC. And Dr. Brock has a lot of cool stories and experience and credentials in the area of dyslexia. So, this clip I wanted to share with you before releasing the full episode. And in this clip, Dr. Brock is going to talk about a fascinating story of the CEO of Party City, the massive party supply company, and how the CEO struggled with dyslexia, but leveraged some of the strengths or advantages that often also come with dyslexia to achieve the massive success that he's had in life. So, if you like this clip, please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the full episode coming up in a few days. And you can also leave a rating and a review for the podcast and share it with a friend. All right, here's Dr. Brock. I wanted to, just bring up these two YouTube videos that you shared with me. One is called Dyslexic Advantage, What You May Not Have Heard About Dyslexia. And the other is called Because I'm Dyslexic. And again, I'll include links to those as well. But just to give a brief overview, the videos in particular highlight individual stories of dyslexic people who have done amazing things. And it was incredible to see, just between CEOs and other business leaders, scientists, professors, who there had this similar story of basically being put down by the traditional education system and then later discovering and leveraging these strengths. And they're incredible. It's an incredible pattern, somewhat disheartening that they had to go through this initial hurt almost, but then these individuals at least really took advantage of those strengths that you're describing. So I'm wondering if you can highlight some of the stories that in your career stick out to you of dyslexic people doing amazing things.
Yeah, I think from those videos, a few of the people that really stick out, one of the individuals on there was a guy named Jerryrittenberg. And Jerry recently stepped down as the chairman and CEO of the Party City Corporation. And after leading that through its initial public offering, he retired a few years ago. But Jerry, when he was a young child, was a straight D student, and he described himself in high school as a member of the 700 Club, which, as he defined it, was someone who got a total of less than 700 on the combined verbal and mathematics score on the SAT. And Jerry did attend college, but he went during the Vietnam War years primarily for the reason that he didn't envisage himself as being an infantryman in Southeast Asia at that time. And so he went to a college whose only entrance requirements were financial. And as he tells it, when he was a student there, his primary function was to be kind of the manager of student services. And so he ended up taking almost no classes at the school, but was viewed as being a valued member of the student body because he performed a useful administrative function for the college. The college that he attended also was transitioning from being an all-girls school to being a coeducational school. So he found that to be a useful form of education as well. And when he graduated, Jerry went to work initially for the Philip Morris Company. He had an uncle that was working there and got him a job on working for Philip Morris. And within just a couple of years, he'd worked himself up actually to a vice president position because he had, although he had essentially no academic credentials whatsoever and not strong traditional office skills. He had tremendous leadership abilities and also fantastic problem solving abilities. So his initial position that they put him in was being kind of a liaison between the workers on the line in a packaging plant for Philip Morris, where they made all their cardboard boxes and things. And he was the liaison between the workers and the managers. And they found that he just did a tremendous job at keeping productivity running because he was so good at resolving conflicts and keeping them from escalating into bigger things. And so he had a very rapid rise at Philip Morris, but after a while he just got tired of corporate life. And so he decided in the early 1980s, when the businesses were just beginning for kind of wholesale party supply things, to try his hand at starting his own business. And so he'd taken money he'd saved up and went out and started a business in the party supply wholesale area, and ended up his first attempt at business kind of ran aground. But he developed some good skills there and took a sales position with another firm. And in the course of his work there, made a client who was another large wholesaler who invited him to come on and actually work with him. And then over the course of a few years, Jerry transitioned into being his replacement as the head of a wholesaling company that he ran up to being a $200 million a year wholesaler. And they were a supplier for the Party City stores. And then early in this millennium, Party City got itself into financial difficulties and was actually headed into bankruptcy proceedings. And Jerry at that time was one of their largest suppliers, and they were a third of his business. And so he realized if Party City went under, it would be really hard on his business. So he went to some private equity folks and said, if you want to buy this out and take me on as a partner, I'll turn this thing around within a couple of years and get you a very profitable company, because I know just what they're doing wrong and I know what I can make them do right. And so they took him up on that, and within a year he actually had the company profitable. And then over the course of the next 15 years, he added on a suite of about 40 companies through acquisitions to Party City, turned it into a $3 billion a year retailer. And when they went public, they were about the 700th largest corporation in America at that time. And Jerry is a tremendous problem solver, a tremendous thinker, but just was never able to show what he could do in a classroom setting. And I think that's, in terms of the discrepancy between real world ability and classroom struggles, Jerry just is a classic example of how we can often miss the strengths of dyslexic folks.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So you can see there some of the strengths that I think you highlighted of creative problem solving, or being able to piece together points or information from a few different areas and draw a useful conclusion, or being able to see things at a high level. That clearly those themes are there.
Yeah, I can give you one more example of something that he did at his stores that actually saved millions of dollars a year with a very simple concept, but it was simple in a way that only a real out-of-the-box person would think of it. One of the challenges at Party City is, of course, as with any retailer that deals with seasonal type items, they needed to move their inventory around the stores frequently. When they would, ship from Valentine's Day to St. Patrick's Day to, Easter or whatever comes next, they would have to spend hours and hours at every one of their 900 stores around the country, moving things around the store. And Jerry was trying to figure out how to make this a simpler process. And he finally realized that instead of just having people pulling things off shelves in the back and carting them forward, that it would make more sense if they made the aisles themselves to be movable and the shelving to be movable. So they had some architects design movable aisle sections, shelving sections, where they could just detach the shelf component and move it up front when it was time to put the Valentine's Day things up front. And that saved them millions and millions of dollars every year doing that. And just that kind of ability to think about problems from a fresh way really was his claim to fame in retailing.
Right. Yeah. Just for somebody who might be too focused on the minutia, they may not take the step back and see what, in retrospect, is almost an obvious solution. So
Yeah.
that's fascinating. So there you have a short preview of my conversation with Dr. Brock, and the story of Jerry, the CEO, is inspiring, if you ask me. And it's also incredible to see the two-sided nature of uh, folks who are diagnosed with dyslexia, and how leaning into their strengths can unlock such incredible opportunities. And if you found this story interesting, I think you'll definitely like the full conversation coming out in a few days. So, in the meantime, go ahead and hit subscribe on your podcast player. This way you can make sure you get that next episode. And please help us out by leaving a rating and a review for the podcast, and check it out. Share it with you're already checking it out. So now I'm going to ask you to share it with the educator or entrepreneur in your life. So until next time, my name is Gerard Dawson, and thank you for listening to the EdTech Startup Show podcast.